Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Calhoun, one of the co founders of Pod TV, and I would like to introduce to you one of our favorite and number one do it yourself advocate TV shows, Timeshares, Solutions, or Surrender with Irene Parker. And what Irene is doing is just phenomenal because she is helping people out who've had to deal with the deceptive acts of timeshares. And again, I want to re-emphasize that word deceptive acts because not every timeshare is a bad situation, but sometimes there are some really bad scams out there, just like anything else. And Irene is taking on some of the worst ones and turning them into good solutions. And I'd like to introduce everyone to my new hero, Irene Parker. Hello, Irene.
Hi, Kim. It's great to be back. And especially this is live TV, so we don't take off on holidays.
No, we
And
don't.
we are here on Memorial Day. And it's a really special timeshare day for me because I actually forfeited my retirement in 2017 when a active duty Navy couple um, in Virginia bought a timeshare and they were told they could easily refinance because they're military. And that's not true. It was about a 17% finance rate. Then they went to Florida and the sales agent there said, "Oh, yes, yeah, that's true, but you need to buy Florida points. There's no such thing as Florida points." And I thought, you know, since that time, I've talked to over 300 veterans and active duty service members. I have heard extraordinary reports of unparalleled bravery and sacrifice. And to think that someone that is battling the VA or cancer from their service also has to battle timeshare is not right. So before I go into my introduction, though, and who I want to dedicate this show to, we're going to go ahead and bring both of our guests on because we have both Gary in Colorado, who is a Navy Vietnam veteran, and we also have Anne Marie. And Anne Marie's husband is in the Army National Guard, and he's currently active duty in training in Oklahoma. So let's start with Anne Marie. Tell us how long your husband has been in the Army National Guard, and then we'll have Gary talk a little bit about his service.
Hi everyone. So my husband has been in the army for 6 years.
6 years. And so has he been deployed yet?
No, he has not been deployed yet, but
So the,
he just commissioned as a second lieutenant.
Oh, okay. And Gary, what years did you serve in Vietnam? And can you share anything about your service?
I was in from 1968 to 72, in and out of Vietnam, up and down the rivers, supplying swift boat stations and PBR boats, taking troops in and taking troops out during that period of time.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so that was pretty live action.
Yes.
Well, with both of you here, I want to talk a little bit about Leo Gomez, who I want to honor today by dedicating this show to him. There's his picture. I'm getting teared up right now. I received a phone call from Leo in October of 2018, and he said that he had a $26,000 loan, and he was worried about about this loan. And I asked him, how did you obtain it? And it's an industry-wide complaint. If you have a deed, they say if you don't give up your deed and buy points, what you have is worthless, or your maintenance fees will increase. And before we hung up the phone, he said, "Well, I'm really worried about this because I only have 30 days left to live." He was exposed to Agent Orange, and he was. I talked to him 6 times the last 30 days of his life trying to resolve his timeshare dispute. And I've never talked to a sweeter person. He mentioned he had 2 Purple Hearts. He forgot to mention that he also had a Bronze Star. And he died on, as they say, November 2nd, 2018. His Purple Hearts and Bronze Stars were for heroism in ground combat. So I had filed on his behalf and complaint with the Arizona Attorney General, and his loan did get canceled. But then hours before he died, just hours, his wife called me, hysterical, that Barclay was calling, demanding the down payment. So, and then his sales agent was the same sales agent. And this was a Diamond Resort sales agent, and we don't have to use the word alleged because we have this sales agent on a recording. And a Army veteran, 26 years old, who suffered from PTSD and traumatic brain injury with seizures, recorded the second hour of a 5-hour presentation, because the first hour he had repeatedly asked for his driver's license and his credit card back, and the agent just proceeded as if he had not asked that. His wife was also active duty military police. So this is just inexcusable. And we had a past guest on who also reported deception by this very same sales agent. So now, and Hilton Grand Vacations has now acquired the Diamond Resorts. And so we have with us today Anne Marie. And before we talk to Anne Marie, though, I want to just do an update about Sandra. Sandra, we interviewed for the first few minutes of a show a week or two ago. Her husband is a Korean War veteran. And after her husband died of cancer, they sold their home, and she has nowhere to live right now. She has no permanent residence. And she checked into her WorldMark by Wyndham, and they told her, oh, it's travel and leisure now. We have nothing in our system about you. We have to add this. And after a while, they said they wanted to do a credit check. She said, absolutely not. If you do that, I'm going to have trouble renting. She walked out of there not knowing that she bought $12,000 worth of points. And she is so distraught. I got on the phone with Wyndham. We've been on the phone with Wyndham 3 times now. So the second time we got to the right person that said she had to reply to the email she would send with a written report. Well, she can't do a written report, so I helped her with the written report. She doesn't know how to attach a doc. So she drove from library to library. Finally, she found a family member that could help her. I could explain what needed to be done. And we talked last Wednesday. She's devastated because she has a looming $600 payment for this. And they said, well, we received it. We'll call you either this week, which would have been last week, or this week. So the name of that department is Wyndham Cares. And I think after we hear today from Gary, we're going to wonder if that department needs to be renamed. But Anne Marie, if we could hear first what has happened to her with her Hilton Grand Vacation. Did we lose Anne Marie? There she is. Okay. Anne Marie, tell us how you first became involved with Hilton Grand Vacations.
So I believe my husband received a call from a sales agent in 2021 selling or proposing to him that we could have 4 nights, 5 days anywhere for $200, something like that. And I believe the agent on the phone said they got our number through someone who knew us as a recommendation. So we checked the deal. It was a good deal. 4 nights for $200. That was a perfect deal. So my husband bought it and we went to Las Vegas. We stayed at Trump Tower for 4 nights and 5 days. We attended a timeshare presentation, and while we were attending the presentation, I didn't know nothing about timeshare. I was holding my phone under the table trying to check on Google to understand what the guy was saying, because he was not going straight to the point and he was just showing us different places that we could visit and this and that. Deep in my mind, I knew that nothing is free. So on Google, I was checking what is timeshare, and I was just telling my husband like, "Mm-mm, everything that he's saying, we are not getting nothing from him." At the end of it, we spent almost 2.5 hours there. He was so pissed, and he left us. After he left us, another man came and he said he was going to walk us out, but he proposed to us another package, which I think cost something around 1,500 for 7 nights anywhere. I mean, they had different states that we could visit for
Let
those.
me ask you, I have two questions. Who do you know who called you? Was it someone from like the Hilton Hotel side?
Yes.
Okay, so you're Hilton Honors members? Hilton Honors, or
No,
do
at that
was
time we were not. No,
okay, so it was because you had booked a Hilton hotel that they offered you this?
not at all.
Okay, so who was it that called you to offer you this promotion?
It was just an agent over the phone. We don't actually, those people randomly call you to say, hey, we have a package for vacation that might
Oh,
interest
okay.
you. Yes.
Okay,
Initially,
now did they say it was for a timeshare presentation?
not at all. They never
Yes.
mentioned something like that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so you didn't know it was a timeshare until you were did the sales agent at Hilton say it was a timeshare?
they never use that word. Never. The first time again we went to Las Vegas, my husband and I, we did not know anything about timeshare, something called timeshare. What is that? We didn't know anything about it. Again, we're just starting our life and starting to dive into those vacation things. So we didn't know anything about. But we attended the presentation and I was like, okay. Then after the presentation, they connect you with a sales agent who will talk with you. He trying to relate with you, things like that. Then it was just taking so much time. I was under the table with my phone trying to documentate what he was saying. Stays at Hilton Resort. I didn't even know the name timeshare during that time. But one thing that made us did not to purchase it was that he was suggesting to us a package that would cost probably 22,000. At that time, both of us were barely making 100,000 a year, so it was out of question that we could take something like that. So we knew we did not wanted it at that moment. At the end, when they proposed the package for 1,500 for a 7 night, I think it was point. My husband took that because he wanted to offer me something in the future, maybe for a wedding anniversary or my birthday. So in 2022, that's what we purchased, that 1,500 package.
And then you attended in Hawaii, if I remember.
Great. So in 2023, we decided to use it for my birthday. In 2024, I was to turn 30. So my husband, we chose Hawaii and we booked everything there. We went there. I think it's at the last minute that my husband told me that, hey, we still have to attend the presentation, because I thought after the 1,500, after paying the 1,500, that was it. We just use our 7 night and we don't have to deal with them again. So he told me we had to go to another presentation again. I was like, okay, anyway, whatever. It will not take us time. We know already we don't want it. So we got there, and I believe the next day we went to the presentation, but that was different from a presentation. The presentation, you go first with many people in the room, they show you the screen and every nice things. This second time, it was just like a one-on-one with an agent. It was not actually a presentation.
And how long did that presentation last?
More than 2 hours. It was long. Initially, he said, it's going to be fast. Let's just do it quickly. We'll get out. But it took more than 2 hours.
And what you, as the figures you gave me, is that you purchased in January of 2024, so it's still this year, a one bedroom every other year. But the property that you purchased was in Orlando at Tuscany Village.
That's correct.
And for $14,000, you financed 13,900 at 17%. And you had given a very detailed explanation about some proposal of being able to rent the weeks or sell weeks to tell us what that was about. Had you objected to the cost of the program? Is that what brought that on?
So I hope, I don't know if I have some connectivity issue, but anyway, what happened is, when we met with the agent, he showed us again all the locations that we could go. At first, he doesn't show you the location. He tried to kind of relate with you. He was like, me too, middle class, a former teacher. I myself, I have a timeshare. I don't like anything expensive. I know that during your first presentation, they show you a very expensive package, but I'm going to work something out with you guys. You don't actually have to spend so much money to go on vacation. You can just purchase something small, even if you have a big family, because at that time we told him we live with my mother-in-law permanently and we have 3 kids. And he was like, you don't need to purchase anything big. You can just have something small. You don't always have to use your how do they call it, your property, but other properties are always available. You can rent you can book for a 2 bedroom, even if your property, even if your deed is for a 1 bedroom. Then he went on to show us RCI, telling us that in RCI it was possible for us to book without using, I think it's without using our point. It was possible for us to book stays in Europe, even in America for less than 400. And it was also possible that we could book stay like that for friends or family, and even book it for them for cheaper in case they wanted to actually go. Like, we can hear from a friend that they want to go for vacation, and we suggest to them that we can book their vacation at a lower cost and help them, take the money.
Was there any promise of being able to make money by renting these out?
Basically that's what he said, that we could hear a friend who wants to go for a vacation, and we suggest to them that, hey, we can book your stay for cheaper. You don't have to pay that expensive. It implies that in return they will pay you. They will not have to spend as much as they would have spent without your option, and you make some money out of it.
So he wanted you to book at the lower price and then sell your friends the same week at the higher price?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, and now have you reached out to Hilton? And I always try to ask people, is it possible that you can just make the best of it? So did you count on that ability to make money to be able to pay for this? Or if you
So
hadn't heard about that, would you still be unhappy with your purchase? Why are you unhappy with your purchase?
So I heard you asked me that questions before, and you asked me to think of it. You asked me to think if there is any way I can make the best out of it, which I did. Hypothetically, I went in the website trying to book a 4 night stay in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is not far from Oklahoma, with my family for a 2 bedroom. The amount of point that we purchase is 5,400 points, and only for those 4 nights with my whole family, that will cost me 4,000 points. That's just for one stay first. Now, secondly, when I try to look at RCI, it doesn't work the way he promised, because the idea that we had was this: if to book a 7 night in Europe is $400, that's That's beautiful. And you could just enter any type of resort. He was like, choose your resort, choose your destination. And when we chose, he put it in the system. He showed us 7 night for 400, 7 night for 330, for 350. For us, that was a beautiful deal. But now, when I go into my account and I try to do it myself, those are not the same thing I see. First, right now, my husband is deployed, so we have less income. And basically, I have to pay it myself. It doesn't fit in our budget. Then the promise that we were giving that we could find the 7 bedroom or whatever using the RCI to make the money, I can see that is definitely not a possibility.
And what the lawmakers need to understand, because they always say you should have read your contract, you could have canceled during the rescission period. This would not have been in your contract. There's nothing to protect the consumer. They'll show you a book of all these destinations, but that's not the same as you going online and trying to book. And you mentioned something too. You're the second active duty service member. We had another one, and this was also Hilton. He was Army National Guard. He was being deployed to Kuwait, and his income was dropping $40,000. So now, have you reached out to Hilton to, are you asking Hilton to cancel this loan?
So I call Hilton. I made them understand. First, I don't know if it's necessary to mention this, but we receive our contract. I'm not sure if they hand us our contract before we left Hawaii, but here is the thing. You don't have access until they call you and they give you your login information. And that's after a long time. So even if you have your contract in hand and you don't have access to the application or to your portal online, how do you know the booking works? How do you know that the RCI works? So, and I reached out to Hilton. I called them. I asked them what was my options to cancel my loan. The lady over the phone told me that I have to pay it off and see with Hilton. At the moment that I pay off my loan, Hilton can cancel it. I said I don't want to pay off something that I cannot use. I don't want to use it. She said that was my only option, or to resell it, that she can connect me with people, with agent to resell it. I said, okay, this is my first attempt to cancel my loan. She said, well, this call is being recorded and this will be put in your file. Next thing that I did, I filed a report with Hilton directly. Those are the two actions that I took.
And so the next step, given the presentation where they gave you the ability to rent, to turn around and make money on those rentals, that would be the next step then would be to file a complaint with the Florida Attorney General. And did they express any, did you mention to them about the agent saying that you could rent it for money, to make money?
No, I didn't say that during the call when I called to cancel my loan.
Okay, so that's really the main deception that I heard. I mean, it's deceptive not to say it's a timeshare, but the filing with your husband has a security clearance. So here we have the
He
issue
does.
where it's just and I've been told by people knowledgeable of this that if you are left with no choice to default, it's best to talk to your, in the Army, I think it's an S2 officer, or an intelligence officer, some higher authority before you default a loan. Are you considering defaulting on this loan?
I cannot consider that because in any way I want to jeopardize my husband's security. View his rank is not really going to look good for him. Up to now, we've been paying.
Yes, it's terrible. Well, I'd like for you to stay on stage with us, Anne Marie, while we bring Gary back. And I thought your report was a good lead-in because now we have a brazen rental complaint. We have members helping members, kind of like the Army on the buddy system, I guess, where I have introduced Gary to two not Hilton, Wyndham members where they have both been issued a cease and desist letter telling them that they're suspected of commercial activity. Gary showed me a link to a Wyndham. It doesn't say it's a Wyndham site, but it is a Wyndham site when I checked. It's called Vacation Share. And when I looked at the website, it said, explore the fantastic possibilities offered by Vacation Share, a leading rental program that lets you list your reservations and potentially earn money. So, and the only way you know it's Wyndham is if you look below where to book. All 3 properties are Wyndham. But here, we've got these complaints, and Blue Green is even worse. And they've suspended hundreds of accounts, and a couple of people, no way were they commercial activity. And the ones that did use a third-party platform, some said they were referred to a third-party platform. So Gary, let's start the same place we started with Anne. How I believe you've been a Wyndham member for a long time. So let us know how you first got started with Wyndham and what led up to this nightmare.
Well, we've been Wyndham members, Jane and I. She started earlier than I did. She's probably owned timeshares for 40 years, probably. And when she and I got together with her membership, we vacationed with Wyndham 20 years, probably we've been doing it. And we finally bought one together, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. And so we've been pretty satisfied with Wyndham up until this last point. And it's kind of that same rental thing that they told us we could make extra money by renting out our points, and it just turns out that that's really not true. We would have to turn over all of our points. So the Wyndham, what's called vacation or extra holidays, will rent them out for you, but you have to give them the points. And if they don't use them all, you lose them. And if we give them all our points, then we have nothing to vacation on. So it's like a catch-22. We can't make any money, and we can't use our points to rent. And now we're stuck with this long-term mortgage that we really don't want. And we're trying to get out of it, but we haven't heard much from them. Irene, you've helped a lot, but everybody's been silent on the other end. So I've got no response from anybody in Wyndham.
And to find out if your course, when did you submit a report to Wyndham?
About 2 weeks ago, I think. I'd have to go back and look. 2, maybe 3 weeks ago.
So that's not that long of a time. And it's the same thing with Anne Marie. If you send a report and you don't hear back, it's good to call them. And they have been responsive with other people that have reached out to them. Have you filed a complaint with you purchased, and I've got your figures here. And again, this was about travel and leisure. You purchased 608,000 additional points for 44,000. So you now have 808,000 points, and a $16,000 down payment charge to Wyndham. And you finance 28%, you think, at 14%. So tell us a little bit more of what your sales agent, how he, the details he used to explain how the rental program would work.
Well, he said that he does it, and his parents do it. They rent their points out, and they make enough money to cover their expenses. At least their maintenance fees and some other expenses. He said he has people that make $6,000 a year doing this, and I just can't see how it works. To us, it's impossible to make this work. So we rented points years ago. We've done it through Craigslist, and we had a couple that always rented from us for ski area up north of Colorado, and they worked fine. I mean, it was okay, but it was no big deal. We didn't do it a lot because we like to travel. We use our points as much as possible. And the reason we bought these extra points was that he made it seem like we could use these extra points, rent it out, still be able to take our vacations and make uh, a certain amount of income from those points. And it just isn't. It doesn't work that way.
Well, and I will go ahead and confess that you and I are both in our 70s.
Yes.
Okay, so Kim, you're probably going to jump in now and ask if Gary factored in this $44,000 purchase price over your travel life expectancy to see
No.
if that expenditure.
I always ask people to always look at your return on investment, but how much are you actually paying over a span of life for what you got? And I did this to Irene just because I was curious because she loves hers. Don't get me wrong. Irene loves her timeshare. But so many people don't realize that there's a lot of upfront cost. And then there's a lot of back end cost.
Up until this last episode, which was just in March, um, we had the only thing we paid was our maintenance fees every month. We didn't have a mortgage on anything else. So for us, that was fine. That it works out to about 600 and some odd dollars a month. But that's pretty cheap where we can go and get 2 weeks in a nice condo by the beach. It worked really well. We liked it a lot. We traveled 3, maybe 4 times a year, and with the amount of points that we had up until this point, we have some other points that go along with this that we bought, either off of eBay, or Jane had her original timeshare back from the 1980s, and we use that as what Wyndham calls a pick point. So you can bring those points into the Wyndham inventory, and then we get so many points to use each year. So up until this time, we were 700 to 800,000 points, and we could use those most of the time. We get to the end of the year, about September, we can bank them over into the next year and roll them over into the next year and use them for something else. Wyndham will tell you can use these points for cruises, and yeah, you can, but you don't have much of a selection. They just don't.
Well, and that's true industry wide, that your best use of points is booking stays at resorts. When they talk about rental cars and they talk about using it for anything other than booking reservations, typically the conversion value, or even converting to hotels, I don't think that's very economical. But yeah, and I will go ahead and take a commercial break here to talk about a positive timeshare experience I had, Anne Marie, with Hilton. And that was just last week, where, let's see, I did my timeshare math, and I think the stay cost about $200 less in equivalent maintenance fee dollars compared to book online. So what I do is it was 800 and some points for 3 nights, and I divide it by my 21 cents or 22 cents, whatever my maintenance fees are, and I get what it costs me, and then compare that to online. Now, if you know those commercials or cartoons where you've seen a teacher pull a student into the principal's office by pulling their ear and dragging them down the hall to the principal, that's usually what checking in to Hilton is like for me. And this happened in Orlando last month, where I show up to check in and they say, oh, well, you go to VIP check-in. Of course, that's to get your parking pass so they can make sure that you attend an update. And so then I like to watch their expression on their face when they open up my file. And she pulled me right back to the check-in desk and said, here, you check her in, it'll be faster. I thought, oh. So then last week when I checked in at the Cove at Ormond Beach, same thing. Go to the VIP check-in. So I was ready to be taken to the principal's office, back to the principal's office, and Chris is the greeter. And he looked at my file and he said, "Oh, you have a flag on your account." Well, I really appreciated that transparency. I really did. And he said, "It looks like they're going to lift it in December." I said, "Well, is there any way I can renew that?" And he said, "You'll have to talk to Hilton about that." But he could not have been nicer. The room, we got upgraded. We had a 1-bedroom reserve. We got upgraded to a 2-bedroom ocean front. We had 2 full bathrooms. I couldn't believe it. It was just a wonderful experience. And I've asked Chris to come on the show because I told him about Hilton members saying that our Diamond members being told, if you don't upgrade to Hilton, you're not going to lose locations. And he said, I've heard people say that too. Somebody from Virginia said that they were going to lose locations. And it just happened that our CEO, Mark Wang, was staying here for some kind of race week. And he talked to them and they were able to resolve whatever it was. But how many people have that luxury to run into the CEO of the company? So Gary, I forgot if you said you had filed with, let's see, you purchased in Florida. You have filed with the Florida Attorney General, or you have not?
Yes, we have. And I got a response back that they didn't say one thing about it. They just acknowledged that they got the filing.
Okay, and Anne Marie, remind me again, have you filed with the Florida Attorney General? Oh, Anne Marie? Maybe she can't. Oh.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Did you file with the Florida Attorney General?
Not yet. I'll do that this week.
Okay, yeah. Now, what the Florida Attorney General will do is they will pass it to the resort, to Hilton or to Wyndham, and they said they do not mediate disputes. So Tennessee Attorney General, they do attempt to mediate. So basically, they will come back and say you signed a contract. But what you need to discuss with them, Anne Marie, and Wyndham has resolved issues like this. We had one person in Wyndham that, I believe it was Hilton. I think it was Hilton, where he was a dive instructor, and they had promised that there were locations at dive locations like Bonaire, and of course that's there isn't any like that. And he fought back by saying that there was no way that they could have learned this during the rescission period. Same thing with your being able to book to make money. Now the extra holidays that everyone that mentioning, those are basically the deals that you can get for $300 or $400. I believe it is against policy to try to make money on those as well. But so Anne Marie, where are you? If you cannot, is this going to present a financial? This must be presenting a financial strain on your family if you're not able to. Are you struggling to make the payments then? Anne Marie, can you hear me? Oh, maybe she's lost
Yes.
my. Yeah, okay,
Yes,
so are you okay, she cut out.
She's there. Hold on. Let me try to unmute her again. Okay, go ahead, Anne Marie.
Okay, sorry, Anne Marie. Yeah, so this is a struggle. It's a financial hardship on your family. Oh,
it is. Like I mentioned previously, now on a daily basis, my husband is a nurse, but whenever he's deployed, we experience decrease in income, and at the same time, me staying with the kids, I can't always keep two jobs. So if I have to stay on one job in order to keep my sanity and take care of my children, we cannot afford this. This is $234 per month plus 1,000, I think it's 1,200 of maintenance fee. This is not something that is financially good for us.
It's hard to make the best of it. Now, Carl, who bought from Westgate, and Taya, our very first guest was Taya, who's active duty Army. Carl and Taya attended Steins versus Westgate, where several developers have been sued, including Wyndham, accused of violating the Military Lending Act. So if you were to get an attorney, they would try to negotiate, but if they couldn't do that, then they would file an arbitration claim. And that, to me, arbitration is basically a kangaroo court. We had one active duty service member, I believe, yes, they were Navy, and they were disputing a $12,000 Diamond Resort purchase where they had a family of 6, and they said they were not sold enough points for a family of 6. In the car back to the hotel, she had mentioned that she didn't think this was right and that they wanted to cancel. And they said, "I'm sorry, it's too late. You signed a contract." Instead of telling her that they had 5 days to cancel in Nevada. So she did end up in arbitration, represented by a law firm, disputing $12,000, and the judgment against their family was $66,000. They were ordered to pay over $50,000 in Diamond's attorney's fees, and that, I believe, she does have an attorney that's either a JAG officer or a former JAG officer. So that's where you left with nothing. But Gary, you had sent me an interesting email, and I know we're 3 against 1 here. We've got 3 females and 1 male. You had sent me, and I'm sure Kim's going to have something to say about this. We were supposed to have another guest on, Michelle Jabor, who's a former Wyndham and a Diamond sales agent, and she would have gone on and on about your comments. And I just, by coincidence, received a new lawsuit filed today. Lois Valsalka against, and it was filed May 23rd, just a few days ago, versus Blue Green Vacations, Andrew Novell, Taisha Ramsey, Lori Callie, and Troy Dowling. So Lois has alleged that she suffered sexual harassment. And if you read the lawsuit complaint, this would be an R-rated show. And the Blue Green did nothing to help her. And it wasn't until after she resigned that 2 people named in her lawsuit, Tara Lent, and Tuesday Elizabeth, unusual name Tuesday Elizabeth, they both reported allegations of sexual harassment, and he was then fired. We also had another lawsuit, Julie Havey versus Wyndham. And again, I'm not going to repeat what the allegations were because they were revolting. And I asked for an update on that, and it said that lawsuit was voluntarily dismissed, which probably means that they settled. So Gary wasn't necessarily bringing up comments about sexual harassment among the ranks of the people working in the industry, but I have heard that it's very chauvinistic. But Gary was talking more about the difference between men and women disputing and how they're treated. So could you tell us, what was the experience you and Jane had in that vein?
Well, when we were in that presentation in March, you get partway through it and then it starts to get to the point where they bring in the sales manager to talk to you and try to convince you or show you what's going on. And when he came and sat down at the table, he immediately started addressing me like Jane wasn't even there, and started talking to me. And she's pretty independent. We don't live together. She's got her own house, and we've been like that for 22 years, I think. And she's pretty independent, and that pissed her off. She just, she sat there for a minute, and she finally said something to this guy about, I'm right here. I'm part of this too. And he kind of got a little bit aback and then said, well, I'm a good old Southern boy, and this is just the way I was raised, and I don't mean anything by it, and blah, blah, blah. And I go, she, right then and there, we should have walked away at that point, and we didn't. And then he got up and left, and another salesman came over. And it's just that kind of an attitude that she didn't matter. I was the one that was going to make the decisions, and she didn't matter. And he pretty much ignored her. And that's just not right. It just shouldn't happen that way. And I've looked at other things like the lawsuit that you said you brought up. There's other things that happen because women are women and they're supposed to be dumb. And the mechanics around here will do it to her. A handyman will come up and going to do something for her house, and she wants me there simply not to argue, but just to be there so that they don't try to take advantage of her. And it's a terrible situation that we have, that we have to deal with, that where women cannot be treated as equals, that can't be treated like they're smart enough to understand. And that's just terrible.
Well, and I think, though, that sometimes we've overcome that, especially in broadcasting. It seems like there's 50% women and 50% men. And as a former stockbroker, we were cold calling all day long, and the guys around me were getting hung up left and right, and I'd be 20 minutes listening to somebody's recent divorce. And so I think there's sometimes some advantages to being a female, that maybe the defenses are not up. Kim, having been raised in broadcasting, have you experienced any discrimination in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I started out as an engineer in 1984, so I saw a lot of discrimination in my career path. I was very blessed and had some great opportunities, but every one of them came with some discriminatory issues. TV, I've really not seen a lot of discrimination. What I do see discrimination is like if we're trying to do business with someone, like buy some tools, engineering tools or anything, I get talked down to a lot. So I just usually call Nick and say, hey, Nick, can you just call us the guy in? And Nick has no idea what he's saying or what he's doing. We have this little deal between us. And I go, can you just call? And he knows then what's going on. And we've even had guys trying to overstep me, because it would be my final decision. He knows it that, engineering is what I do and the other is what he does. But they'll try to overstep me and go to him directly, to fly all the way from Atlanta to Raleigh, Durham, when they knew I was out of town, just to talk to him. And so I see a lot of discrimination. But where I see it worse, I mean, it's very disappointing, is after my husband died. And when I try to get some help with something around the house and I hire a plumber or somebody of a different skill set, because I don't want to go buy new tools. I kind of know what needs to be done. And they just try to, tell me all these other things. Oh, to replace it's going to cost $700. And I go, I just need it unscrewed. I'm not strong enough. And, we're getting my car fixed. I have a deal with my best friend that for 40 years, he was a good friend of my husband's. And I don't go anywhere near a mechanic without saying my big brother's here with me.
And Anne Anne Marie, what type of work do you do, Anne Marie? Do you work outside the home?
No, I work from home.
And what type of work do you do?
In the technology, I'm a site reliability engineer.
You're a liability engineer?
No, site reliability engineer.
Oh, cyber liability engineer.
I mean the site reliability engineer. So it's SRE. That's my position.
Oh, so we have two engineers, Chris, on today. Kim on today's show.
And two women engineers. Get that.
So did you have any, battle any male counterparts in your career?
In my career, definitely. In everyday life, just the example that Kim took. I remember my first when explaining to him, he'll be baffled. They, something was always wrong with my car, according to the mechanic. Something was always wrong. At the end of the day, what I did, I sold that car and I decided to purchase a brand new
We're having some trouble.
car.
Kim, are you having trouble hearing Anne Marie?
My idea of the brand new car was
Just a little bit. Keep
so
talking.
for a long time I would not see the mechanic.
Before we go, I want to also give a further update on Sandra, and in the vein of Memorial Day. And one of the things that's really good about this show is members helping members, members supporting members. And I was watching about the Wounded Warriors Project on television, and they talk about feeling isolated, and people that have been harmed by timeshare feel that way too. In Ormond Beach, I had a remarkable experience that I'll connect to Sandra, but we happen to have one of our board members, and we've asked Gary to be on the board because he has some webmaster skills that we could really use help with. But we had one of our board members just happened to be from northern Minnesota, and we were going to get together. And I received a call from another Club Exploria. If you remember, Sheila and Bob were former guests on our show, talking Club Exploria. Well, this person worked as a VSO, a Veteran Service Officer. So in addition to Sandra having such a hard time with Wyndham and finding a place to live, I listened to a 45-minute conversation between Sandra and this Club Exploria buyer of what it takes for a veteran to deal with the Veterans Administration. Sandra's husband died of what they call CTC, continuous cell carcinoma, and he also had mycosis fungoid. Both of those conditions are conditions of Agent Orange, which is, and they talk about being on a presumptive list. So there's always the problem of cause and effect. My husband has a PhD in biochemistry, and I brought him in, and I think we could have had a 3-hour conversation after all of that. But there's 3 ways to appeal. If you're denied by the Veterans Administration, a VSO officer will help you with your appeal. You can ask for a higher level review because of an inaccurate decision, or in other words, supplemental, that there's new evidence, or you can appeal directly to the board. So I just think it's just such a beautiful thing to have Sandra who is, first of all, having to battle your timeshare on top of what it must be like to battle the Veterans Administration. It just isn't right, and it just breaks my heart. So I think that going forward, we want to have some prior guests on, Anne Marie and Gary, to let us know how this process evolves. And it's important to never give up and to keep the persistence going. So I know Sherida on our board has been emailing Vacation Village for the last, I think, 18 months or 2 years, and just not giving up. So Kim, your experience now, you've heard from a number of guests. How do you feel about timeshare overall? I think this is episode number 14.
Yes, it is. And I have to say, I'm just ultimately shocked that our consumer laws are not established to protect the consumers a little bit better. And knowing what little I do about real estate through my sister, who's extremely intelligent in that world, and I know you are too, I don't understand nor comprehend how the laws don't hold their toes to the same real estate and mortgage lending laws that they do anyone else. And in fact, she even told me, I'm sitting here taking this test and I'm looking and it says all of these laws pertain to everyone in real estate except timeshare. All these laws pertain to everyone except, and I go, that's wrong because timeshare locks you in forever. This is something people don't understand. It is a forever and ever marriage. It is not I'm going to buy this house and want to sell it when it has increased in value, or if I get into a certain situation and I can just sell it. You can't. It's attached to you with an umbilical cord that you can't ever detach. I mean, you got to pay HOA fees the rest of your life. And, I heard from Gary, he pays $600 a month. If I add that up, I'm still not getting a better deal with my vacation than I normally do. So the consideration of that value is not there with the kind of property that they're selling you. If they sold you something for $20,000 and you're supposed to get a 1 bedroom for X amount of, 1 week a year, that's not of any value, even if you owned it for 30 years to me, because you're also paying HOA fees on top of it. If I took that property and the HOA fees, I could have gone and bought a beach house with what I'm paying in interest rates and everything else. So I think that there is no value of consideration in any timeshare purchase that I have witnessed. The only thing I see is Irene is very happy with her timeshare. But she fights a little bit for it. And then the other lady that we had on the other day, I can't remember her name, but she also she's like, I'm like, let's get some of her agents on there because I'm sure they got horror stories. She's like,
that was Patty.
Bull, no, you're not going to do this to me.
Well, and then next week we have John Raymond on, and John, yes, he's our host, a timeshare reseller, and he's been in the business for 20 years. And we actually had a timeshare talk show, and he was our host for that show. So, unfortunately, unlike a house or a car, if you have a loan, you can sell it. But so thank you, Kim, we began the show with Leo, and we're going to end the show with Leo. And I will be thinking about all of our service members for the rest of today, and Lydia, his wife, that's left behind.
And timeshares, solution or surrenders, we don't give up. And we work every day, including Memorial Day and other holidays. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and we'll see you next week on Timeshares, Solution or Surrender.
Bye.
Bye.